part of what we're going to do today is actually, instead of reading some perspectives or people's opinions, we're actually going to look at some photographs. And we're going to ask ourselves, what do we
Aubrey
see?
Wilk's fifth graders are at the beginning of an interdisciplinary unit, which concludes with every student creating a fictional memoir written from the perspective of a person whose life was affected by slavery. To consider multiple perspectives for their memoirs, her students have been examining a series of primary sources. We captured the class for 4 days in the week prior to starting their research, as they grappled with the complexity of the documents and the topic, finishing with a gallery walk and a Socratic seminar to synthesize their understanding. We've created 2 short videos of the week, beginning with a video focused on primary source texts, as well as this second video focused on the analysis of photographs and the Socratic seminar.
The day after Little Eva, we looked at 4 different images, and before we started looking at the photos, part of what we talked about was that we've looked at a lot of perspectives, and the question we have to ask ourselves now is, well, then what's true? We've done so much work with text. And the kids are used to saying, in the text it says, but for some reason they look at a photo and say, he's feeling mad. I can see it on his face. And so we needed to spend a little time on that in class and actually name it. There are going to be 2 things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking for facts, what is absolutely true. We're also going to need to make some inferences about what might be true.
After a focus-guided practice, using one of the photographs to sharpen students' abilities to differentiate between facts and inferences, Aubrey gave her students the majority of class time to analyze the collection of primary sources.
And I see people holding a puppet. I see children. Yeah, they sitting right there.
When we look at photos and when we look at primary sources, there's a lot of engagement.
Black lady and a white lady holding their, she's holding the baby and look like they're taking a picture.
The answers aren't given to me. I get to actually make that meaning myself.
Look, and we can put these 2 pictures together.
And I get to be a detective, and I get to agree or disagree, and I get to look at something and feel smart.
Well, we can't say he's yawning because we don't know if it's true. I think it's an inference because it might just be somebody else's hand going up.
You just spent a lot of time looking at these photos, and we can see the facts. The fact is he's a black man. He's a white man. He has a gun. Part of what we did at the end of class then was to look at all of the inferences that we made, and then ask ourselves, well, what don't I know yet? What do I need to find out? And some of you looked at that picture of the whipped slave and you just said, wow, I think he probably ran away. And so you turned those inferences into questions and you said, well, did he run away? Why did they do this to him? We might not be able to find out who that man was in the picture. But could we find out why slaves got whipped?
Yes.
Could we find out what the consequence was if you ran away?
Yes.
We could research, and we went ahead and wrote down all of our questions and then decided which ones can we actually research, and we jotted those on sticky notes and we stuck it on that chart. And we're going to bring those back next week as we start researching for our perspectives. On the day of the Socratic seminar, we started with the gallery walk and put up all of the images and the text that we wanted to put music in the background, and Library of Congress has a great resource, field songs sung by actual slaves after they were freed. And it was, 1, an excellent primary source, and 2, really set the tone for the gallery walk itself. One of the things that happened was what I had thought was a Civil War photo from the time of slavery was actually a photograph from 1908. And so it was a nice chance to put up something surprising on the wall, and actually we were able to have a conversation about, when we really do the digging, that inference was wrong. Even though it was a pretty good guess, it was actually not right. We are going to transition now into Socratic seminar. What I'd like for you to do before we start is just take one look at your goal for Socratic seminar.
My goal is to support my ideas with evidence. Also want to build on the ideas of others.
We ended the week with a Socratic seminar, which was a chance for kids to really synthesize everything. So the first question I'm going to ask you to think about today is, how do you think slave owners viewed themselves? They had looked at so many sources and they had talked about so many things and they'd asked so many questions, and it was a chance for them to bring all those sources back in.
That the masters carry themselves is that I'm superior, I'm stronger than everybody else, I can take control.
What words coming up, say what you think George Fitzhugh would say.
since I'll give you the clothes and you live under my roof, and I'll give you the money and I feed you.
He would say something like, you guys are already free every time when you're done working. You're free. Maybe thinking themselves as a good person because what they do for these slaves and how they treat them. But if you're coming from a slave perspective, you wouldn't think of that like that. George Fitzhugh and little Eva actually connect.
When working with primary sources and complex texts, it's really important to set the kids up for success, and that doesn't mean that we don't let them grapple.
If you're reading all these books when you're young, then you're gonna think when you grow up and you get your own slaves that it's okay to do what you're doing because of what the books are saying.
It means that we think about the sequencing of the text, how it's framed, when it will be framed. Can you tell me what you think Frederick Douglass's perspective would be of this book?
I think his perspective would be what you see in books is not always true, because
that we think about the organizers that we use that will make the most sense, that meet the target, and then charting the ideas so that we get a chance for synthesis and a chance to make it visible, so that the grappling and that the complexity doesn't feel overwhelming, it feels exciting and doable.
I think that he would say that he disagrees because slavery was bad. Where's your evidence?
I think I got evidence for you. Slaves have no heart to feel, no soul to aspire, and no head to think.
We are going to switch gears, and inner circle is silent. I'm going to ask outer circle what you think is most important, maybe a praise and a push.
One good thing I saw was that mostly everybody was participating. Something that you guys need to work on is some people were not using evidence.